Hello, my friends. Your buddy Phil here, project management trainer and coach. Over the past number of weeks, I've gotten all sorts of questions about the new PMP exam. And also, I've gotten questions specifically about Agile. People want to know a little bit more about Agile. People are asking which course to take and for definitions. One of the definitions that has been a recurring question is the question about user stories, amidst other things that I'll cover progressively. But today I wanted to talk about user stories because the question is coming up quite a lot. Now, in the Agile Practice Guide, this book right here on page 55, there is some mention made about user stories. It says here in 5.2.6, each team's capacity is different. Each product owner's typical story size is different. Teams consider their story size, so they do not try to commit to more stories than there is team capacity. However, they failed to define for you in clear terms what they mean by story. Now, there's another book from the PMI, and this is for business analysis. I'm going to read from this book what their definition of user stories is. The book in question can be found on PMI's website, and it's called Business Analysis for Practitioners, a Practice Guide. Let's go to page 101. This will help you understand what they're talking about here, because I know I've told lots of you to go read this up, but you're stuck. So let's read page 101 of the Business Analysis for Practitioners, a Practice Guide. It says, a user story is a statement written from the point of view of the user and describes the functionality needed in a solution. Typically, a user story is used in an adaptive methodology, such as Agile development. Sounds familiar? Adaptive, Lifecycle, or Agile, as talked about in this book. See, you got to join all the dots or we'll be lost. So this says, typically a user story is used in an adaptive methodology such as an Agile environment, but can be used in any methodology approach. I have found this to be true. A friend of mine in a particular country in government space said, Phil, I've been called upon to do something, and my sponsor doesn't even know what he wants me to do. What should I do? I don't even know what they're talking about. I don't even know where to start. I said, this sounds like a twofold job. This sounds like a hybrid approach. First of all, we need to use a schedule, but secondly, and most importantly, we need to use user stories to get down to the bottom of what this sponsor actually wants. This worked like clockwork. It was one of the best inventions that my friend had ever come across in project management. Now, this person was a PMP, but had not been exposed to user stories. I'm hoping that exposing you to these user stories and how they work will unlock that missing piece to help you narrow down what your stakeholders, your sponsor, your customers truly want, not just in software, but in any deliverable, any system, any solution. So let's read a little bit further. It says, but user stories can be used in any methodology approach. A user story often takes the format of as an actor, whatever that actor is. So when we say actor, we mean what that person's function is, what that person's role is in the firm. As an actor, I want to be able to what that function is so that I can whatever the business reason. So it's written as an actor, I want to be able to function so that I can the business reason. Let's read on. On the next page, you've got a breakdown, and this I cannot read. It's too long, but I would like you to take a look at it. If you are a member of the PMI, this is freely available to you to download. Now, it says here at the bottom of the page, the function provides a small, discrete piece of business value or function. So when you're writing your user story, the function should follow the INVEST acronym. INVEST stands for independent, negotiable, valuable, estimable, small, and testable. Now, I'm going to come back to the INVEST acronym, but why don't we jump into a little bit more depth regarding these user stories? Now, a particular agency out in the UK have got some pretty cool information, and it's free, and that is what I'm going to be presenting to you today. It's at the nationalarchives.gov.uk. This contains public sector information licensed under the Open Government License. When I'm able to share slides with you outside of this, because it's under common agreements, common licenses, I get excited. So thank you very much, uk.gov or gov.uk. So let's take a look at a few things regarding user stories here. Now it says, user stories describe a user and the reason why they need to use the deliverable, service, result that you're building. Remember I told you about this predictive/agile project, hybrid if you will, where we actually use this to get a stakeholder's confusion straightened out. So user stories describe a user and what they are looking for in the system or solution that you're meant to be building. So when should we use user stories? You must use user stories when building your solution, deliverable, service, result, whatever. They're essential to building and running a product or service that meets user needs. If you really want to assure yourself that the requirements you're capturing are user-centric and actually fulfill the real needs that the user is looking for, use user stories. As a whatever actor that person is, for example, as a doctor, I would like, what would they like? I would like software that can send me patient records or patient history the moment they walk into my clinic so that I can effectively diagnose whatever I'm meant to. Or as a PMP exam student, I would like a software app on my mobile phone that will remind me what I need to study for that particular day or week so that I can pass the PMP exam or so I can better prepare for the PMP exam. Whatever it is, it's written as simply as that. Very simple, but powerful when applied the right way. Now, you may ask the question, what are user stories good for? Okay, it helps us create a clear statement, but it goes beyond that. Apart from putting the user stories to great use when constructing the deliverable, programming the software, designing, or whatever you're doing, there are other uses of this. First of all, it's a great conversation piece to align the team, to come to a common understanding of what the user really wants. Apart from that, it also helps you to track everything that needs to be done. It also enables you to think about the work from a user-centric perspective. And it enables you, like I said, discuss with your colleagues, using it as a conversation piece. Last but not least, based on an understanding of what the user wants, you're able to prioritize their needs and their wants from the deliverable. So I highly, highly recommend looking into the definitions in the PMI's documentation that I just showed you. So what should your user story include? Your user story should include enough information for your product manager to decide how important the user story is. User stories should also include the person using the service, the actor, what the user needs. You could call that the function as well, or the narrative, and why the user needs it, the goal. If you can remember those three things, you're good. As a, I need, so that. As simple as that. Three things. But like I said, it's a really powerful tool. So you may ask the question, what is the right format for user stories? Now, while I've given you the overarching format, one more time, they're written in the form of as a who I am, I need, or I want, or I expect to, whatever that person expects to do, so that why they need to do it. Now, here's an example of a user story. As you can see here, it states, the register to vote services user story is, as a UK resident, the actor, the UK resident, I want what the actor wants, so that those are the magic words. As a UK resident, I want to get my details on the electoral register so that I can vote. It's as simple as that. That is a very, very simple user story. So now you've got an idea of how these look. How about you practice one of yours? Create a user story. See what you come up with. But just remember, you don't need to parrot fashion follow this, although it's good to use some templates. But if you are ever at a loss, just remember those three things: the actor, the function, and the result. Let's move a step further here. So one of the things that is most important is a focus on the goal. The most important part of your user story is the goal. The goal helps you make sure you're solving the right problem. What does the user really want to do? If you're struggling to write the goal, then you should consider why you think you need that feature. So the goal just seals the deal. Once you can get the goal down, you're closer to completion of your user story. Let's move on to talk about acceptance criteria. So what is the acceptance criteria for a user story? You can also include a few acceptance criteria for each story. Acceptance criteria are a list of outcomes that you use as a checklist to confirm that your service has done its job and is meeting that user need. They are often written as a list that begins with "it's done when." So the word or the phrase "done" is commonly used in Agile and in Scrum. It's done when. When are we done with satisfying the requirement? That is a question that should be answered right from the beginning. It's done when. When, whatever that is. So, when is done? The acceptance criteria for the register to vote service are as follows. In other words, referring to the user story that I just showed you. It's done when the user knows how to register online. It's done when the user knows how to download a form to register by post. It's done when the user knows where to find or where to send the form. Use the acceptance criteria to link any evidence For example, spreadsheets or diagrams that support the story. Moving beyond this, there's a topic that may come up in your circle of project management, and that term is epic. An epic is like a massive user story. That's really what it is. Large user stories, ones that would take more than a few weeks to develop and test, are typically called epics. If possible, split a large story or epic into small stories that can be completed within an iteration. Let's move on to discuss how to record user stories. So, people use all sorts of devices and methods, but typically want an index card. An index card will discipline you to get just the needed amount needed into that index card. Using an 8.5 by 11 may not be the best idea because you may go far beyond what you need. User stories should be kept simple without too many sentences in them. So, record each user story on a card, give it a title, and the card can be actual cards posted on your wall. It could be digital. Some people use Trello, some people use other tools. But whatever you do, don't go overboard with your user story. You want it to be straight to the point and concise. So let's talk about planning with your user stories. When you have a lot of user stories, you may want to keep them in a digital format like Trello or spreadsheet, and then turn them into physical cards as part of planning. Or you might just be like me. I prefer putting these things in physically first. But if, like many teams, you're geographically dispersed, then that may not be a viable option. You might need to start off digitally and go into a physical mode of operation. So still on planning with your user stories, you should put all your stories in your backlog. In other words, product backlog, where your product manager will organize them in order of priority. And Trello is very easy to just move things around. So if you've got all your user stories, you can move them around and prioritize them as a product manager. The user stories sit in the backlog, the product backlog, until the team decides they're ready to work on them. The product manager and relevant team members can have a more in-depth discussion about the story and when they're ready to start work on it. What you do need to remember, though, is this is a team sport. Okay, so Agile is very team-oriented. Scrum or Agile flavor, team-oriented. It's all about the team. So there has to be a lot of collaboration between team members. And that is why user stories should be done in such a way that they can be readily shared, even with a globally dispersed team. One of the advantages of Trello is that globally dispersed team members have access to all the user stories, the order, and everything else. One of my associates, in fact, my video producer, complained to me he was not able to organize his work. His work was all over the place. And I thought an agile approach would probably work for him because he changes schedules very rapidly and he needed something to organize his work. So I recommended Trello. He has never been happier with a tool that has helped him organize his work and at the same time keep his team members all on the same page. User stories are the real deal. If you have not started using them, I want to encourage you to look into user stories. Remember, the documents I shared with you, they're available to you. If you're a PMI member, check them out. Start using your user stories today. Thank you very much. It's your friend Phil. If you're looking for training, coaching, help on your exam, PMP exam, or maybe you would like training for the ACP or the Certified Scrum Master, drop us a line. Go to praizion.com. That's praizion.com. I would be more than happy to help you out. Thank you for joining me, and talk to you again soon.